Hey, what's going on, traders? It's Johnny here, Trader X. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel. And today I wanted to go ahead and give you guys another recap and let you know how my day trading went. And so as you guys can see from the screen, unfortunately today was another red day. I was down about $55 on the inverse ETF of the Nasdaq, ticker symbol SQQQ, and I was down about another $7 on TQQQ, right? And so these are all my filled orders. You guys can see the timestamps here on the left of where I bought in and out, right? The quantity I was trading with right over here, the ticker symbol that I was currently trading at the time right here in the middle, and then the price points are over here on the right. And so that is there for your reference, but I'm going to go ahead and get right into the recap. And so in terms of what I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to let you guys know why I think I struggled today and what I could have done better, right? And so heading into market open, we did see a big aggressive sell-off, right? And ultimately what I ended up doing was actually, I woke up a bit before the market open and I decided to look at, the chart on the past 5 days, right? So as day traders, it can be useful to look at these slightly bigger time frames because the 1 day 1 minute chart may be hard to actually, get a true sense of direction. And we don't want to look at these, very large time frames because of the fact that we are day trading and these smaller time frames are going to be more relevant to us, right? And so ultimately what I saw going on was the past 5 days, right? The Nasdaq has been very bullish. So it's actually been indicating signs of an uptrend, right? Making these higher highs and higher lows. And what I mean by that is it'll push up, right? And when it pulls back, it doesn't pull back lower than it did before. And then it actually ends up pushing up higher than it did before, right? So that's what I mean by lower or by higher lows and higher highs. And so as this thing got rejected, right? It didn't go lower than it did before and it ended up hitting higher than it did last time, right? So that is exactly what I mean. When something's indicating signs of an uptrend, that's what we want to see, right? And so ultimately, before all of this happened, right, during the market movement today, what I saw was right around this area, right? It was trading right around this area. And given the past few days, what I noticed is that the NASDAQ, if it does break below the middle VWAP, it doesn't tend to hold for too long, right? Before it recovers. It'll break below and immediately almost reverse itself. And so as we were trading right around these areas heading into market open, right, I saw break below a little. And what I realized is this thing has been consistently trading between the top and middle VWAP even, right? So once we were around this middle VWAP and I saw it start to actually push up right at market open, I bought in and averaged up, right? So let me zoom in a little so you get a better view. You guys can see it starts to pick up. So I bought in, market open, and then it started to spike up, right? I averaged up, but what you guys will notice is this thing completely changed direction, right? So that's definitely a risk I was willing to take at market open. When there's more volatility, it could either push it up, very fast or down, right? Like we saw here. So as this thing, I bought into the market open and it started to surge. I averaged up and then I saw it start to, slow down, right? It wasn't just aggressively popping anymore and it was actually starting to sell off a bit aggressively. So what I decided to do was cut my shares for a loss, right? And because of the fact that I was doing a good job of managing my risk, this play over here was actually not that big of a loss given the amount that I was in with, right? So I think I was in with $10,000 at one point on this push, right? I was hoping it to approach the top VWAP before it got rejected like it did pre-market here, right? But ultimately that didn't end up happening. And as it started to get rejected, I cut my shares that I averaged up with and then cut the trade completely as it started to go more south, right? So I did a good job of managing risk there. And another mistake I made today was as this thing starts to aggressively sell off, right? I decided right around bottom VWAP to buy in to a TQQQ position in hopes that, it continues its pattern that it's been having of trading between the bottom and top VWAP. And so as this thing approached the bottom VWAP, I bought in. And the reason why it was a bit of a mistake was, as you guys can see, this thing continued to sell off. So as I bought in, this thing bounced, right? It bounced, as you guys can see, and then immediately started to aggressively get rejected by the EMA line. And so as this thing continued to sell off more and more, I ultimately had to cut my losses somewhere, right? And then as you guys can see, it actually ended up going according to plan. So we had this huge pop and this thing actually ended up getting rejected, right? Forming this little double bottom here before it ultimately ended up recovering. And so as you guys can tell, I was saying that I was trying to trade it between the bottom and top VWAP. And so a big reason why I struggled, I think, today was given the fact that the market was very choppy, and there were lots of fake outs. And what I mean by a fake out is, for example, when you saw this thing start to reverse, right, after it sold off very aggressively, when you see it start to break above the EMA, right, and then it uses it to bounce up, most people would think, oh, now it's going to finally hit the top VWAP, but it had an aggressive change in direction, right, ended up selling off, hitting, making this double bottom here, and then as it continued to push up, right, it would push up, ride the EMA line up, and then it would get rejected, right? It would get rejected. And so a lot of people right around this area may have been thinking, this thing was going to continue to sell off to bottom VWAP again. And so as this thing continued to sell off, people could have gotten into the inverse ETF. And then ultimately it ended up becoming choppy, right? So it changed direction out of nowhere. Then it changed direction out of nowhere again. Then changed direction out of nowhere again. And it finally became overextended and got rejected for a third time before it ultimately ended up selling off, right? So there was a lot of consolidation right around this area where it's trading sideways, pretty choppy, kind of hard to, predict the true direction. And so that's ultimately where I struggled a lot with, where the fake outs and averaging up at points maybe I shouldn't have and not cutting my trades quick enough. So as this thing would continue to sell off, I would try getting into TQQQ maybe like around these levels, and as it sold off more, and ultimately bounce, it would continue to sell off, and then I would have to cut my trade there for a loss. And so ultimately that's what I ended up struggling with today, right? Getting a true sense of direction. And I am just happy that I was able to manage my risk today. So I was down about $63, and that was trading with $10,000. So that's not even what 1% loss today. And so I am proud of myself for doing that. As far as what I plan to do in the future, well, as you guys can tell, right, on these bigger time frames, the Nasdaq has been aggressively selling off for a while, right? It'll approach the SMA line like it did here. It'll consolidate for a period of a few days up to a week maybe, right, where it's trading sideways, right? It's finding a common support, common resistance, and so I think we may be seeing that, moving forward the rest of the week. It could get very choppy and not really, choose a direction, but that doesn't mean it has to happen, right? This thing could sell off like it has before, right? Very aggressively, where it doesn't consolidate for too long. It can continue to push up, right? So on the bigger time frames, right, looking at the Nasdaq from a bigger perspective, it is bouncing off the SMA line here, right? So we are aggressively still getting rejected by the EMA, but what you guys will notice is the Nasdaq on a bigger time frame actually tends to always correct itself, right? Have these corrections back to the SMA line before it actually continues to uptrend. So it's followed it pretty well, right? Respected the SMA line the past 20 years pretty well. And given the bad news and the pullbacks we've been having, right, it is at more of a better deal. And if the Nasdaq continues to climb, we'll see other top tech stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Tesla start to climb, right? That's why if you guys notice, I do have an open position of 2 shares on Tesla, right? And I haven't added to it yet, and I don't plan to until the direction is more in our favor, right? So what I mean is rather than get rejected, right, by the EMA line, I want us to start breaking above the EMA line like it did here and continue to make these higher highs and higher lows. Once it does that, then I will feel more comfortable adding to my Tesla position. But as of right now, I would be pretty much adding to something that's losing money in value, right? So that doesn't make much sense to me. And yeah, that's ultimately everything I wanted to talk about in my game plan for Tesla, right? I don't plan to average up on it until I get true confirmation that the NASDAQ is pushing up. And yeah, I hope you guys were able to end green today and were able to take something out of my day trading today. If you guys did learn anything new or did appreciate the video, we would highly appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe if you are new and haven't already, because we are a new channel and it really helps us out. But that's everything I wanted to talk about. I am going to post a recap tomorrow, so you guys can tune in for that. But yeah, I hope you guys are all able to end green today, and I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow.